All right, we're getting close to the start of the 2025 college football season. Today's Saturday. That means we are exactly 1 week away from kickoff with week 0 next weekend. I'm running out of time. We got to knock these out. Up today, one conference, 3 teams. It's time to do some predictions. All right, here we go. Up first, we're going to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks. If I asked you what Arkansas's record was last year, what would you say? I have to admit, I couldn't remember. I sort of remember they weren't very good, but I couldn't remember their record exactly. And I thought they were like 4 or 5 wins. That's what was in my mind. They were 6-6 last year during the regular season. Finished 7-6 with a win over Texas Tech in a bowl game. Now, they lost a lot, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. But Sam Pittman's back as head coach. I think it's his 6th year there now. Could it be his last? I don't know. There's some talk about that. And Bobby Petrino returns as offensive coordinator. He was there last year. And the quarterback is back. Talon Green, I think his name is. But that's it on offense. He may be the only returning starter on offense for Arkansas this coming year. They brought a ton in through the portal. They got some young guys that are going to step up and play this year, but not a lot coming back from last year offensively other than the quarterback. Now, that's the good news, I guess. If there was kind of a bright spot, I think it was him. And he seems like he's probably going to win Arkansas a game or two. He's an exciting quarterback to watch. There's just not a lot to go with it. And when you're replacing that many stars, they're replacing probably 10 starters on offense. Chemistry, cohesion, even if you bring talented people in, it's such a crapshoot when you're replacing basically 95% of your starting offense from last year. Defensively, a little bit better picture in terms of returning starters. You get about half the defense back. Again, heavy in the portal there. I don't expect Arkansas to be a great team and compete for any type of SEC championship or playoff berth, but they made a bowl game last year and won it, finishing 7-6. Can they do that again this year? I think they can. I'm going to do these a little bit different since I'm doing 3 teams in one video, but here's their record. I've got them going 6-6 again. Their losses, I think, are going to be Notre Dame, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, Texas, and Missouri. So let's go through the schedule here. They start out with a couple of non-con games that they just absolutely have to win. If you're going to get bowl eligible this season as Arkansas, with all this turnover on offense especially, you have to win these non-con games. I think they will. They'll beat Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State. On the road at Ole Miss, I gave Arkansas a win here. I think they're going to beat somebody. Last year, they beat Tennessee. Remember, no one saw it coming. That was early in the year, too, week 3 or 4, something like that, around this same time. Might have been a week or so later in the season. Anyway, no one saw that coming, and they pulled that one off. Now, I think this will be more difficult. Number one, it's on the road at Ole Miss, and there's so much turnover offensively. But the first couple of weeks there gives them a chance to kind of get their feet wet offensively. And I don't know. I think they go on the road and beat Ole Miss. I also think they beat Memphis. So I've got them starting 4-0. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is, look at the rest of this schedule. It's brutal. I've got them losing to Notre Dame. Then they have a bye week. I think they're going to lose on the road at Tennessee. Notre Dame's a top 10, top 5 team likely this season. They don't have a chance there. I know they beat Tennessee last year, but it was at home. This year they got to play them there. I don't think they're going to sneak up on Tennessee this year since they beat them last year. I know Tennessee's got some issues to it, quarterback and offense. They lost a lot, but they're just a more talented team, and it's a tough place to play. I think they lose to Notre Dame and Tennessee. Texas A&M, I think, could compete for the SEC championship this year, or at least be close like they were last year. I can't see Arkansas beating them. Auburn, now this is, of course, totally dependent on Jackson Arnold, who was a disaster last year at Oklahoma, but now he's at Auburn. I like the talent around him there at Auburn. Actually, on both sides of the ball, I like the talent at Auburn. They got to have quarterback play. If they get that, they're going to win more games than people think they will. I think they beat Arkansas. It's another loss for the Razorbacks. Mississippi State, I think they win. It's a home game. Arkansas, Mississippi State, Missouri, Kentucky. These are sort of the teams, depending on who wins when those teams play each other, you're going to win 4 or 5 games, or you're going to win 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is, right? I think they get a win. I think they get a win there. Then another bye week. But then look at these last 3 games. LSU, Texas, and Missouri. 2 of them are on the road. I think they're losing on the road at LSU and at Texas. And I think they're losing at home to Missouri for their 6th loss of the season. So they will be bowl eligible again. What does that mean for Sam Pittman? Don't know. But I've got Arkansas at 6-6. All right, let's look at Mississippi State. All right, now last year was bad, even by Mississippi State standards. It was horrific. They were 2-10. Their only wins were against 2 lower classification schools. They went winless in the SEC. They got blown out by Toledo. It was just horrible. The best game they played all year was probably a loss on the road at Georgia, where the offense at least put up a lot of points. But it was just an absolute disaster. And unfortunately, from Mississippi State, it doesn't look like things are going to get a whole lot better in 2025. Their over-under win total for this season is 3.5. So you're basically asking yourself, can they win all their non-con games and maybe one conference game, right? If they or whatever, they just it's not going to be. It's not going to be good. All right, offensively for Ole Miss, Blake Shapen is back at quarterback after getting injured last year. And they do have some talented wide receivers. The offensive line, I think, is a major issue there, though. So, trying to protect Blake Shapen, because he was pretty good before he got injured last year. Trying to protect him is not going to be easy, but of course, needs to be a priority for Mississippi State if they want to have any success in 2025. They do have some decent wide receivers, but you have to have a quarterback on his feet to hit him, not on his back. So I think they'll have some success at times through the air, but when they play teams with a really good pass rush, they'll probably struggle. Defensively, they were horrendous last year, 125th in the country in total defense. They've rehauled it over there. They gave up 456 yards a game. It was not good. It feels like they'll be a little bit better this year with Jeff Lebby in his second year and Shapen back healthy at quarterback and some pretty good wide receivers. But, man, you look at this schedule, it's just absolutely brutal. There's not a lot of wins on it. I mean, I'll go ahead and show you. I've got them at 3-9. So that would be an improvement over last year. But again, they went 2-10. I mean, that's Florida State levels of bad. That's how bad that is. But let's go through it, and I'll tell you which 3 games, or you can see which 3 games I've got them winning. But we'll just run through the schedule quickly here. It's hard to find a lot of bright spots this season for Mississippi State, honestly. The non-con schedule. At Southern Miss, I'm giving them a win here. This is 50-50 at best, in my opinion. They're playing on the road at Southern Miss. Why? You shouldn't do that. You're probably, if you end up catching a loss here, I doubt it's going to matter this year, but this is the type of decisions you make that keeps you at 5 wins instead of 6. Playing teams like this on the road, what are you doing? I'm giving Mississippi State a win there, and I feel like that's being generous. But then you come back home and play Arizona State, and that ain't happening. Bud, it ain't. I know that they lost Scattaboo, but Levitt's back at quarterback. They've got 10 of 11 starters returning on defense. They're confident coming off of a trip to the playoffs last year. They're going to blow you out at home. That's going to be an ugly game. Alcorn State, I'm giving you a win there because it's called Alcorn State, and I'm even giving you a win against NIU. But that's it. That's your only wins there. Those are the 3 wins, and I feel like I'm gifting you one on the road at Southern Miss, but I think you're going winless in the SEC. I think you're losing to Tennessee. I think you're losing to Texas A&M. Tennessee, you get them at home. Can you take advantage of their secondary? I don't know, and I don't think you're going to be able to protect Shapen in that game against Tennessee's defensive front. They lost James Pierce, but they still have a talented defense, and I just don't think Shapen's going to be able to stand in the pocket and throw there. You're going to lose to Tennessee. Road game at Texas A&M, difficult place to play. You're not winning there. Come off of a bye week. You have to go on the road to play Florida. Maybe if you get them at home, you try to find a way to give Mississippi State a chance, but you got to play them there. I don't see it happening. I think Florida beats you. Come back home and play Texas, a top 5 team, not winning that one. On the road at Arkansas becomes almost a must-win game, and you already know because 5 minutes ago I told you, I think you're losing that one too. I think Arkansas beats you. Georgia, you get them at home, but hey, not enough cowbell, bud. I think Georgia beats you. On the road at Missouri, that might be your second most winnable game in conference, and I don't see you winning it. And unfortunately, things are going to go from bad to worse because I don't think you're winning the Egg Bowl either. I don't think Ole Miss is going to be quite as good as they were last year, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But they're miles beyond where you're at right now. So unless you're one of these people that says, well, it's a rivalry game, anything can happen, which technically is true, I don't see enough of anything happening to give Mississippi State a win there. I think you lose. I think Mississippi State has a 3-9 season, year 2 with Jeff Lebby, and and Bobby Petrino calling the plays. I just don't see it here for Mississippi State roster-wise, particularly on defense and offensive line. They're way behind the rest of the SEC, and the schedule is just too brutal. Mississippi State, 3-9. All right, time to talk about Missouri. Now, the story for Missouri the last couple of years has been much better than Arkansas and Mississippi State, the other two teams we talked about today. 9-3 last season for Missouri, finished 10-3 after winning a bowl game against Iowa, their second bowl win in a row, beating Ohio State the year before that. And while the record looks good, and they were better than the other two teams we've talked about today, if you've been around my channel for a while, particularly if you were here last year, you know I wasn't that impressed with Missouri last year beyond their record. They have a very favorable schedule last year and this year when it comes to the SEC in comparison to some other SEC teams. Well, you can see the schedule over there. They avoid a lot of the big names in the SEC this year. They get a lot of their most difficult games at home, so it's another favorable schedule. But I looked at Missouri last year at 9-3 and didn't even think they were a top 25 team. They got blown out by, they lost by 30 or 40 points to Texas A&M and then Bama. I think they benefited from that schedule. Now, they've lost a ton on the offensive side of the ball, including a 3-year starting quarterback in Brady Cook. They got two quarterbacks vying to replace him there. One they brought in through the portal. One's been there a couple of years. We'll see which way they go. They brought in a running back out of the portal, too, Hardy. I think he'll be pretty good. He was at ULM last year. Tough physical back. Seems like he's a good fit at Missouri. So we'll see. All new wide receivers through the transfer portal. They really went heavy in the portal this season. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, they returned 7 starters off of a pretty good defense last year, top 25 in a lot of major categories. So I think the defense will be okay. Second-year defensive coordinator there, so they're not having to learn a new scheme or whatever. They did bring in some portal players through the on the defensive side of the ball as well, but they got a lot of starters returning. So, well, I'll just show you. I've got Missouri going 7-5. So I do think they take a step back, replacing Brady Cook, replacing a couple of NFL wide receivers. Although I like that running back, they're probably going to have 2 brand new tackles that they got through the portal on the outside. So how's that going to work out? Just a lot of questions for me offensively for Missouri heading into the year. I've got them at 7-5. Let's go through the schedule, and I'll kind of give you some brief explanations as to why I've got them winning and losing some of these games. I do think they start off hot in the non-con wins against Central Arkansas, Kansas, and Louisiana. Now, the Kansas game is interesting, an old Big 12 matchup from when Missouri was in the Big 12 before moving to the SEC. And Kansas in the beginning of the year can be dangerous because that's when their quarterback is healthy. Now, he gets hurt every year. Jalen Daniels, is that his name? Feels like he's been around forever now. He's great the first 4 or 5 games of the year every year. Then he gets hurt and Kansas sort of drops off. I think this will be an interesting game. Missouri gets it at home. It's obviously a benefit. This is one they could potentially drop, but I've got them winning that one and starting 3-0. But not against South Carolina. I think South Carolina gets the win. This is the battle of the Columbias here. Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia, Missouri. This game's in Columbia, Missouri, but I think Lenore Sellers too much here. I think South Carolina gets the win. That's Missouri's first loss. They turn it around the following week by beating the shit out of UMass for no reason. Then a bye week. Then they host Bama. And again, this game was not even competitive last year. And it was one of the worst years for Bama we've seen in a long time. They get them at home. I don't think it'll matter. Bama will roll Missouri. Then they got to play on the road at Auburn. I think Auburn beats them. Now, this depends on Jackson Arnold, obviously, but Auburn's got a lot of talent everywhere else. If they can get decent quarterback play, Auburn's going to beat some teams this year. I think Missouri's one of them. Auburn gets the win at home. Another loss for Missouri. That's their 3rd loss. Do have them beating Vanderbilt on the road. Not a gimme. Diego Poverty, if he gets hot, has shown the ability to knock off some top-ranked teams. We'll see. You have to play them there, but I'm going to give Missouri the win against Vandy. Second bye week before you host Texas A&M. Another one of these teams that beat Missouri by 30 or 40 last year. I don't know if it'll be that bad this year, but I do think Missouri loses. I've got Texas A&M getting a win on the road in Columbia. That's your 4th loss. I think you'll beat Mississippi State. Just got done talking about them. They're terrible. At Oklahoma, though, no. Again, quarterback dependent, but I like John Mateer. And, I think Oklahoma is going to be a lot better both record-wise and just better as a team this season than they were last year. I think you lose that one. I do think you win on the road at Arkansas to close out the season. That puts Missouri for 2025 at 7-5. So a step back from the last couple of years, but replacing a ton on offense, including a 3-year starter at quarterback in Braden Cook, a couple of NFL wide receivers. Not a terrible year. a tier above Arkansas and Mississippi State for sure, in my opinion. Also above Kentucky, above Vandy, but sort of below the kind of upper tier that they found themselves hovering around the last couple of years. 7-5 for Missouri. All right, appreciate you watching. Be sure and let me know down below how stupid I am, and have a good morning.